Well, it's been a remarkable day. One of the greatest quests in modern history, particularly among those seeking to understand prophecy, has been to identify the individual who Christians claim is the Antichrist. And today, I have done so. It actually wasn't by intent. I was returning to the Aramaic and Hebrew. The portion here that is most salient is actually written in Aramaic. Presentation of Daniel's vision from 2,600 years ago. And my intent was to fine tune or hone the timeline that I have developed. By analyzing really everything Yahweh's had to say over the past 3,500 years, so that we know exactly when every important event is going to transpire. And as I proceeded in that direction, I was able to validate that, in fact, the upcoming harvest, Shabuah, is going to occur on May 22nd. Of 2026, which is just 11 months from now. And that this will begin the time of Israel's troubles. We knew this, of course, from Yeshaya, Isaiah 17, but it is also reaffirmed in the 12th chapter of Daniel. And I was also able to determine, in properly translating it, that we can expect that this Toraless one, this corporeal manifestation of Hasatan, this man who will be demon-possessed and represent the adversary, that he is going to arrive, in Jerusalem and set up shop, first politically, on the 29th of January, 30. This is in the final week of Ramadan. And so he will have just that time to celebrate the number one festival, if you will, on the Islamic calendar. Not that he will be a Muslim, but because, well, he has been enticed by Muslims to advance their cause. Then, about a month later, on the 18th of April. This would be the 14th day of Abib. For those in the know, this is not just Passover. This is the daytime of Passover, halfway through the celebration of Passover, which would begin the following evening with the meal, is when the two witnesses, Yada and Elia, are going to arrive on the Temple Mount in the heart of Jerusalem and begin their witness. And it will then be shortly thereafter that the Toraless one is going to reestablish Passover, this time implementing it on Ashura Day, which will resonate with both Christians because Ashura is their model for Easter, the Mother of God and the Queen of Heaven. And that it will also, of course, resonate with Shia Muslims because this is the day that today celebrate by having copied one of the holidays of rabbis. So this timing, I was able to work out through the timeline that is provided. But as that presentation continued, well, it became quite obvious as to who was this man that is going to arrive and torment Israel. Because he's a man that is beloved by Israel. He's a man that is exceedingly popular in the United States. And one of the things that drew me to this conclusion was the realization that in the most famous of all of Daniel's prophecies, and it's really not Daniel who was the prophet, it was Gabriel. Gabriel is Dod, God's most courageous and competent man. that he is the one that unlocked time for us. He's the one who told us exactly when he himself, Dowd, the king of Israel, the actual Messiah and Son of God, which, by the way, acknowledging him as such is the greatest discovery in human history. It proves that Jesus never existed. He's nothing but a crude counterfeit of David. That as he provides the exact time that he would fulfill Chag Matzah, Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim, that we are able then to establish the exact day he will return. And this is what we use to put in place the celebration of Shavuot and the time of Jacob's troubles, as well as his return, which will be 10 days after the celebration of Teruah, trumpets, in 2033, year 6000 Yah, therefore arriving with the great homecoming being on Yom Kippurim. Sunset, 6:22 p.m., October 2nd, 2033. Of course, in the city of Dowd, Jerusalem. So we're able to put that timeline together, and tonight's family hour, we're going to make our way through Daniel 12 to present the information that can be known about these events and also the identity of the one who Dowd has acknowledged not only in Daniel 9, but also in the 12th chapter of Daniel, and then in the 7th, is the adversary. You see, in Daniel 9, that exceedingly famous prophecy, where Dowd tells us when he's going to arrive to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim, he also tells us about that 7-year period upon which, and particularly halfway through, well, beginning of that period and then halfway through, what's the Torahless one is going to do. And what we find is that Daniel affirms what Yeshaya would later predict, which is that Israel has its heart cut out and is going to be awarding a terrorist state that narrows the nation at the waist, makes the country indefensible. According to Yeshaya, it is conducted by, it is trumpeted by Donald Trump, the current president of the United States. And as we read in Daniel 9, it is this same person that is the Torahless one, the very adversary that Christians know as the Antichrist, that is the champion of this treaty with many that narrows Israel such that she becomes indefensible. So I knew when Donald Trump was elected that he would be the great betrayer, that he would be the Neville Chamberlain of our time, and that he would offer Israel as his Czechoslovakia, to MBS, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, as his Adolf Hitler, to Muslims as his Nazis, and that it would start World War III. And I've been posting in that regard some 3 to 5 posts a day, proving that point based upon the rhetoric of Donald Trump. But I did not know until today, when I finally put all of the pieces together and was searching for a means to hone the timeline between now and God's return with Dowd, that the identity of the individual Christians perceive as the Antichrist is Donald J. Trump. And the evidence is overwhelming. In fact, I would say it's undeniable and conclusive. And what we're going to therefore find is that there's a reason that Donald Trump first, he had a big mouth, but he didn't really do a lot. He just said a lot. And if you look at what he did, it wasn't all that bad. It's what he said that was kind of irritating, egotistical. But there was no indication in his first term that he was anything more than a narcissist, certainly not a psychopath. But now he is. And now he is the most duplicitous and demeaning man on the planet. There's almost no correlation between what he says and reality. And he's vicious. Actually laying the seeds for economic anarchy, total bankruptcy of the United States, and world war. And he has scheduled the conference, was already scheduled. It was supposed to take place 3 weeks ago, but the 12-day war got in the way. It has been rescheduled now for the end of this month, where the express purpose is constituting a Palestinian state carved out of the heart of Israel to reward the very terrorists who perpetrated Alaska flood. And so it is Donald Trump. And tonight we're going to embark on Family Hour, and my co-hosts have asked that we focus on the evidence for this so that you might know how I came to know and became the first person to actually identify the Christian Antichrist and came to recognize and prove that he is Donald J. Trump. And just as a thought, it means that the difference between these two terms and how much more bellicose Trump has become is that when he lost the election, it was more than he could bear. And when he was besieged by all manner of litigation and was losing case after case, hundreds of millions of dollars in payouts, going bankrupt, isolated, alone, failed, Donald Trump made a deal with the devil. You don't become demon possessed like him, like Muhammad before him, like Paul before Muhammad, without asking for it. Trump made a deal with the devil. We see it now in his every expression, in his every word, in his every act. And this evening, we'll begin a series of programs called The Adversary's Advocate to prove it. So there you go, America, world, Israel, Donald J. Trump is the Antichrist.
Wow.